So by the time the retail catch on, it might well be too late. We've had a golden cross on Bitcoin that's somewhat forming and probably will form. Altcoins are somewhat lagging behind, but there's potential opportunity there. And we've got data this week. Yields created a spook yesterday. So yeah, market's a little bit skittish right now. However, this is where opportunity lies. I covered in the last video, I'm a little bit neutral, a little bit more cautious. However, we're now starting to see some potential positions coming into viewpoint. If you like this sort of content, leave a like as always, and don't forget, let me know in the comments what you think. Are we going to blast through that all-time high on Bitcoin, or is it over? So the first thing we've got to talk about is obviously the golden cross opportunity. Ben Cohen mentioned this on his video, and I thought I'd take that and steal it and use that idea because I think we all talk about this as a golden nugget of information, but often people get very, very fearful on a death cross and also very, very, very excited on a golden cross. And I think the golden cross is often more of an opportunity versus the death crosses. The reality is here, we are probably by default going to cross that bridge in the next couple of days. You can see that. Now, with Bitcoin, historically, we tend to have a bit of a rally before it, obviously. And then it will probably pull back. And given where we are, we're at the all-time high areas. And we did have the highest candle close a couple of days ago as a candle, not a wick, a candle. Important. But the one thing that we all need to talk about is circumstance and history, inauguration, Donald Trump, tariffs, whatever. Q1 has been very lackluster, very, very poor. Q2, often pretty interesting, and it has been over the last, period. And we could talk about this on average period, and we are on average at the moment. Ethereum, quite hard to say with Ethereum right now. But the reality is here, Q3 is often a bit dull, right? You can see that. Q4, often very good. What if we do just fly off and we just take off like a rocket and we get that pullback in Q2 and going into Q3 in the next couple of months, we may well find it catches people off guard. And that could happen, and that often does happen with market fatigue, and you sell your bags before they explode. And that's important because you need to understand the fact of market psychology is important here, and it will get late longs liquidated. It will get late shorters liquidated as well. This market is crazy, and I talked about it in yesterday's video. If you've not seen it yet, go and check it out. I talked about how the yields and the downgrade of those and all that kind of situation around certain things spooked the market, and it kind of went, oh, hold on a minute. And when you tie it in the fact that we rejected that all-time high, it was a bit of a like, okay. We are in a very, very data-heavy week, which we do need to talk about. As I was looking for the actual tweet here, yeah, not ideal. Anyways, now, Bitcoin is holding up, altcoins are still somewhat cheap. But this is the crux of it. Now, the US economic data, and I know some people go on my comments, go, oh, it doesn't matter. It does matter more than you think. All of this and all this information is going to be key for when and what they're going to do with the interest rate down the line. More importantly, other prints of data. It's important. Now, when we go back to the likes of Bitcoin being somewhat at a really interesting level, we've got to look at the S&P 500. We've got to look at how everything is holding up relatively good, but the data is still to come. The yields in Japan, the yields, the downgrade yesterday, and all that kind of stuff over the weekend, it created a little bit of havoc in the short term. And that short term, sentiment change could be very, very quick and sharp. And again, we could talk about the S&P 500, as I've alluded to before. We have somewhat recovered. Let me just remove those golden crosses and stuff. It's good to see where we are right now, where we're above this level and we're going back to these regions. But this probably will pull back at some point, but we don't want it to be off the back of data, which could be an issue. So when we go back to the likes of the altcoin market, they are lagging, and we know that. I've talked about the potential gearing up of all season. We'll talk about that now, but we need the stable market around the S&P, the NASDAQ. We need the dollar to do what it wants to do. We need the Russell to do well as well. And that will allow things to breathe and to be settled. Because if we've got a skittish market where, literally, let's be honest here, if the data is wrong or Donald Trump says something, it's just going to rug it. Literally every single time rug it. And then we're going to get nowhere further forward. So when we talk about, let's be honest here, the total 3, bear with me, let me find it. The total 3/BTC, for example, we are still here. We haven't had a sign of life just yet. This is the most important one to show historic levels of where we are in terms of the market. And it's obvious in a sense, we are not at alt season levels, but we're gearing up, in my opinion. Because when we talk about that, the reason why I say that is because this has dropped a lot and it hasn't really, rallied yet. Even yesterday, it shot down quite a lot, realistically. The total market cap of like all the stable currency dominance is here right now, literally. Now, when, as I say, we talk about all these different total market caps and stuff like that in the others.btc, the others/BTC looks a little bit healthier. The total 3 does not. But normally the total 3/BTC is often the end. That is where the opportunity arises and where things just take off like a rocket. Most altcoins are under 50% corrections. They haven't really ran yet. Normally, that is when you need to start taking notice. And when you start looking on, say, CoinMarketCap, for example, right? And you're looking at, say, the alt season market index, so to speak, it's somewhat iffy. It's not great. But these are starting to get, more and more interesting. They're not as far away now. Whereas 3 months ago, a lot of these were like 50% down. There's only a couple now, which is interesting. So keep an eye on it. Now, another situation you could talk about is rotation. Talked about it a week or so ago now. It's coming, but it's very, very slow, which is fine. Ben Cohen mentioned this as well. And what seems to have happened here, we seem to be going a bit slow in dominance. We've dropped. We've pulled back up. We could go higher here. But it depends if Bitcoin leads. If Bitcoin does lead this rally, it could be very interesting. But alt season won't just magically appear. It won't just like, there's some people say, once Bitcoin hits 110, 120,000, altcoins are going to fly. What about if the liquidity doesn't come? What about if the liquidity goes into Bitcoin more and then eventually it'll go into altcoins? It won't just happen overnight. And this is a situation we could talk about. There's 2 reasons here. One, Bitcoin could lead, and this could actually remain relatively high versus what we'd expect in the past. In the past, you would have expected this to nuke all the way down to like 50, 60%. 50, 40% levels. That would indicate alt season liquidity has gone berserk into altcoins alone. But it might not. What if Bitcoin, for example, leads, this remains relatively high, but altcoins still do okay, realistically, right? But not as well as you think. You'd still grow USD though. Now, the fuel for the fire could well be the fact that this could nuke down to these levels or even lower. A breakdown would equal altcoin fuel. Holding support levels and to continue where it is will probably stall it a little bit longer. So we need to be very, very mindful. You don't just ape in, and we need to talk about that in more situations because I think a lot of people just like to ape into things in crypto and like not wait for a bias. Waiting for a bias is perfect because you want to win at least your confirmation. You're here to make money, right? Remember that? You're not here to lose money. You're not here for clout. You're here to make money, realistically. Whereas I think that strategy of like just aping in when things are looking good could get you destroyed. Now, for me with Bitcoin, it's clear and obvious. I'm bullish, but this area is interesting. We need to break higher. We need to go towards all-time highs and beyond that and close above that. My personal bias is currently cautiously bearishly bullish, if that makes sense. Basically, short term I'm bearish because I'm thinking we may well reject here. But over the longer term, I am obviously bullish. But I don't want to be just going crazy into a bullish narrative thinking there's all coin opportunities when this could reject. And that's my biggest concern right now. And I think that's the thing. You need to understand that you can flip your biases completely if the data is different. The data could be awful this week. We could reject, altcoins go to the floor. Again, the other situation is the other way around. It could be very, very good data and ultimately create a leg up, which could be very, very, very important, right? When we talk about me, I trade. I'm a trader more than, an investor nowadays. I want to trade 20, 30 times a year on the higher time frames. Risk reward, decent win rate, following the market, following liquidity, so to speak, right? Not everyone wants to do that. I know that. But for me, I've got to be able to be right in my confirmation bias. Because if I'm wrong and I'm constantly going long and it's actually telling me to go short, I'm going to get blown up, right? So be mindful of that. It is a key area. There's 2 charts to keep an eye on. Obviously, Bitcoin's key, right? Others/BTC, keep an eye on that because that could well be breaking up on an upside move. That could be where you could see the difference. But more importantly for me, the stable currency dominance. This needs to keep going down. It needs to keep going down. If this breaks down, you're probably going to get some really nice positive action on the altcoin market. So that could be very, very important. If you want to jump in Patreon, I'm going to be doing a technical Tuesday altcoin requests and all kinds of bits and bobs. Jump in if you want to. So let me know what your thoughts are. It's a bit wishy-washy, I know. The market can be skittish, it can create doubt, but ultimately, data weeks can give us a confirmation, a followed area where we can go with it, so to speak, and we want that to happen. If we do get some great, data, we could fly higher, but also we've got to be mindful. This market is led by data, which not everyone likes.